The sun rose slowly over the small town of Willow Creek. Its rays fell softly on the dusty streets and wooden buildings that lined the main road. The town had a quiet, almost sleepy air in the early morning, but the townspeople were already stirring. Shopkeepers swept their porches, horses neighed softly in their stables, and the smell of fresh bread from the bakery drifted into the street. Maria stood at the edge of the bakery doorway, her hands wringing the hem of her faded apron. Her eyes, dark and tired, watched the townspeople pass by. She was small and slender, with hair the color of chestnuts tied loosely at the back of her head. Her face was gentle but marked with worry lines, far too early for someone of her age. Maria had not always lived this life of quiet struggle. She had once known happiness, love, and laughter, but those days felt like they belonged to another world. It had been 2 years since her husband Jacob had died. A sickness had taken him quickly, leaving Maria alone with her young son, little Samuel, who was now 6. Jacob had been strong and cheerful, always smiling, even when times were hard. He had loved Maria with all his heart and had promised her that no matter what, they would never go hungry. But now, with him gone, that promise felt impossible to keep. Maria worked long hours at the bakery to feed Samuel and herself. Every day she woke before the sun, kneaded dough, and baked bread and pastries for the townspeople. She was skilled at her work, and the warm, fresh bread brought smiles to people's faces. But the money she earned was never enough. She paid rent for their small wooden house, bought a few necessities, and hoped to save a little for emergencies. Often, she went without something she needed herself to make sure Samuel had enough to eat. That morning, Maria felt a deeper worry than usual. Her pantry was almost empty. Only a few crumbs of bread and a small jar of dried beans remained. She had spent the last of her coins the day before on flour and milk. Samuel would soon wake up, hungry and bright-eyed, expecting breakfast. Maria's stomach twisted in anxiety. She could think of no way to feed him properly today. She stepped out of the bakery and walked slowly down the main street, hoping to find a solution. The town was small and everyone knew each other. Some people might help, but Maria had always been proud. She hated to ask for charity. Pride and shame battled in her heart as she clutched a small, worn object in her hand ring. It had belonged to her husband. It was simple, gold, and engraved with tiny initials that read M&J. She had kept it on her finger since Jacob's death. The ring, the only physical memory of their love, Maria's steps took her to the edge of the street where the cowboys often rested during their travels. One of them, a man named Caleb, had visited the town for a few days each month. He was tall, with broad shoulders and a calm face, and he was known for his honesty. People trusted him, and he had a gentle way of helping those in need without asking for anything in return. Maria had seen him before, quietly helping someone with a broken cart or giving a struggling family a few coins. Something about him felt different from the others. He seemed to understand the quiet pain hidden in people's hearts. Maria's heart pounded as she approached him. She had never asked anyone for help before, but she felt she had no choice. She opened her hand, showing him the small gold ring. "Please," she whispered, her voice shaking, "sell it for bread. Just enough to feed my son." Caleb looked at her, his brown eyes soft and kind. He did not rush or judge. Instead, he studied the ring carefully, turning it gently between his fingers. He seemed to sense the love and grief woven into the small band of gold. Maria held her breath, her eyes filling with tears, the early morning wind brushing against her cheeks. The town was quiet around them. A few shopkeepers glanced from their doorways, curious but respectful. Samuel's tiny hand rested on Maria's skirt, trusting and unaware of the deep worry in his mother's heart. She felt both hope and fear at the same time. Would Caleb take the ring and leave her with money for food, or would he simply walk away? Caleb finally spoke, his voice calm and steady. "Maria," he said, using her name as if he already knew her story, "I see what this ring means to you. I know why you need help. Let me do something for you." Maria blinked, unsure she had heard him correctly. You will take it?" she asked, her voice trembling. Caleb shook his head slightly. "No, I'm not taking it for myself. You keep it Maria's eyes widened. But the money. Caleb smiled faintly. You'll have your bread. That is all that matters today. He reached into his leather bag and handed her a small bundle of coins. Maria clutched them tightly, her fingers trembling. She could barely believe it. She had expected to give up something so precious. But Caleb had found another way. Tears streamed down Maria's face, mixing relief and gratitude. Samuel looked up at her and smiled, unaware of the heavy burden his mother had carried that morning. Maria hugged him tightly, feeling warmth and hope fill her chest. The sun had climbed higher now, shining on the dusty streets. But the lights seemed brighter, almost magical. As if the world itself had recognized her struggle as Maria walked back to their small home. She felt a quiet strength growing inside her. Life had been hard, and there were many days ahead that would test her. But that morning, she had seen kindness and humanity in the heart of a stranger. It reminded her that even in hard times, there could be unexpected moments of hope. The ring on her finger no longer felt like a symbol of loss alone. It also represented the memory of her husband's love and the kindness of a stranger who had recognized her pain. Maria knew that, no matter what happened, she would not give up. For Samuel, for herself, and for the memory of Jacob, she would keep going. The town of Willow Creek continued its quiet bustle. Unaware of the small, extraordinary moment that had just taken place on its dusty street. But for Maria, it was a day that would remain in her heart forever. Day when love, loss, and human kindness intertwined in a way that reminded her that even in hardship, life could still offer hope. After the morning sun rose fully over Willow Creek, Maria returned to her small wooden house with Samuel's tiny hand in hers. Her heart still raced from the encounter with Caleb, the kind cowboy, and the small bundle of coins in her pocket felt heavier than it should. It was heavy with hope, with relief, but also with the quiet reminder of how fragile life could be. She closed the door behind them and placed Samuel gently on a worn wooden chair by the kitchen table. "Breakfast, Mama?" Samuel asked, rubbing his eyes. His small face was round and innocent, and despite the hunger that had tugged at him that morning, he smiled at her as if nothing were wrong in the world. Maria smiled back, feeling a lump form in her throat. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the coins Caleb had given her. She counted them carefully enough to buy some bread and a few simple ingredients for the day. Not much, but it would be enough for today, as she set the coins on the table. Maria felt a wave of gratitude for Caleb. She did not know where he had come from, or why he had chosen to help her, but his kindness had reminded her that she was not alone. Maybe, just maybe, the world was not as cruel as she had feared. She quickly prepared a small breakfast. A few slices of bread, warmed over a little stove, and a thin porridge made from the last of the dried beans. Samuel ate quickly, humming a little tune he had made up, and Maria watched him, her heart swelling with love and determination. She knew that moments like this were precious. Every smile, every laugh, every small gesture of joy mattered more than gold or wealth. After breakfast, Maria dressed Samuel and prepared to go to the bakery. Today she had extra work because the baker, Mr. Thompson, had fallen ill. Maria had promised to cover for him, kneading dough and baking bread for the whole morning. As she walked down the dusty street, she thought about Caleb again. She wondered if he would return to town soon, or if their meeting had been a brief, miraculous event. She did not know, but she felt a quiet courage grow inside her. At the bakery, the warm smell of fresh bread filled her senses. She tied her apron tightly and began kneading the dough with practiced hands. Hours passed quickly, filled with the rhythm of work. Knead, fold, shape, and bake. Maria lost herself in the work, letting her hands and heart pour into the bread. She imagined each loaf as a small gift, a way to care for the townspeople and for her own son. By midday, the bakery was filled with customers. The townspeople came in to buy bread and pastries, chatting and laughing. Maria greeted each of them warmly, hiding her own worries behind a smile. Some noticed the tired look in her eyes, the faint shadows beneath them. But no one could know the weight she carried in her heart. She smiled, laughed politely, and served bread, feeling proud of her skill, despite the hardships she faced. During a quiet moment, As Maria wiped her hands on her apron, she noticed a familiar figure at the door. Caleb, the cowboy, had returned. He stood there for a moment, looking around, then approached her. His face was calm, but his eyes held the same kindness she remembered from that morning. "Maria," he said softly, "I thought I would check on you. I hope the money helped." Maria's eyes widened. Yes, it did," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. "More than you know. You don't understand. That money fed my son today. It saved him from going hungry." She paused, tears welling up in her eyes again. "I don't know how to thank you." Caleb shook his head. "No thanks needed. You did the hard work, Maria. I only helped a little. But I wanted you to know that not everyone is alone, even when life seems impossible." Maria looked at him, feeling a mixture of awe and gratitude. She wanted to say something more, to tell him how much his act meant to her, but the words seemed too small. Instead, she nodded quietly, letting her eyes speak what her mouth could not. For the rest of the day, Maria worked tirelessly. Caleb stayed in the bakery for a short while, chatting with the townspeople, then left quietly, leaving Maria to her work. But the encounter had given her more than coins, it had given her hope. She realized that kindness could come from strangers, and sometimes the world could surprise you when you least expected it. That evening, Maria returned home, tired but satisfied. Samuel greeted her at the door, and together they shared a small dinner. Maria told him stories of her husband, of the good times they had shared, and of the love that remained in the ring she still wore. Samuel listened quietly, his eyes wide with wonder. He did not fully understand the hardships his mother faced, but he could feel her love and resilience. After dinner, Maria sat by the window, holding the ring in her hand. She traced the initials with her fingers, remembering Jacob's laughter, his gentle touch, and the way he had always believed in her. Tears fell silently as she whispered his name. The ring was a symbol of the past, yes, but also a reminder of the present, a reminder that life, though hard, could still offer moments of grace. Days passed, and Maria's life slowly began to change. Word of Caleb's kindness spread through Willow Creek. Neighbors began to notice her struggle and quietly offered help. Mrs. Harper, an older woman who lived down the street, brought extra flour and eggs when she knew Maria was running low. Mr. Lewis, the blacksmith, offered to fix her broken stove at no cost. The small acts of kindness, combined with the help from Caleb, reminded Maria that the town was not just a place of struggle, it was a place of community, a place where people could care for one another. Maria's confidence grew, and she started thinking about ways to improve her life. She saved the coins she earned carefully, planning for the future. She wanted Samuel to have a better life, to grow up with memories of laughter and love instead of worry and hunger. Each day she worked harder, baked more bread, and taught Samuel the values she held dear: kindness, courage, and hope. One afternoon, as Maria was kneading dough, Caleb returned again. This time, he stayed longer, helping her with small tasks in the bakery. They talked quietly while the ovens warmed the room, sharing stories of the road, of family, and of the small joys that made life worth living. Maria felt a deep sense of comfort in his presence. She realized that even in a world full of hardships, people could be trustworthy, kind, and generous. The days turned into weeks, and Maria began to see that her life, though difficult, could also be meaningful. The struggles did not disappear, but she faced them with newfound strength. Each morning, she woke with determination. Each night, she rested with gratitude. And always, the small gold ring on her finger reminded her that love, memory, and kindness could never truly be taken away. The dusty streets of Willow Creek continued to bustle with life. But Maria's world had changed. She no longer felt the crushing weight of despair alone. The kindness of a stranger, the support of neighbors, and her own resilience had begun to weave a safety net for her and Samuel. The story of the ring and the cowboy was no longer just a memory of desperation. It had become a symbol of hope, a reminder that life could still be beautiful, even in the hardest times. The morning sun filtered through the thin curtains of Maria's small wooden house, casting soft patterns on the floor. Samuel was already awake, bouncing quietly on the worn rug, his small hands clasped around a toy horse. Maria watched him for a moment, her heart full of love and quiet worry. Today, however, was something different in the air, feeling that something important was about to happen. The town of Willow Creek was unusually busy that day. Traders from nearby towns had come with wagons full of goods. Horses clattered over the wooden bridges, and the streets were filled with chatter. Maria had spent the morning preparing bread and pastries for the bakery, working tirelessly while keeping one eye on Samuel. She had grown stronger over the past weeks, but the weight of responsibility never left her, as she finished arranging the last batch of bread in the display case. The door to the bakery swung open. A hush seemed to fall over the room, not because of the townspeople, because of the man who stepped inside, Caleb, the cowboy. His presence was calm but commanding, and every eye in the bakery turned to him. He looked different today, more serious, as though he carried a purpose beyond a simple visit. Maria's heart skipped a beat. She had not expected him so soon, and the memory of the day he had returned her husband's ring still felt fresh in her mind. She wiped her hands on her apron, trying to steady her voice. "Caleb," she said softly. You're back," Caleb nodded. "I thought I should check on you again, Maria. I heard that things have been a little harder lately, and I wanted to make sure you and Samuel are all right." His voice was gentle, yet there was a firmness in it that made Maria realize he was serious. Maria swallowed hard. "We are managing," she said, her voice uncertain, "thanks to you and the kindness of people here." She looked down at the small ring on her finger and touched it gently. "This ring. It has kept me strong." Caleb's eyes softened. He took a step closer and said quietly, "I know how much it means to you, Maria. I also know that sometimes hope is not enough when hunger or hardship knocks at your door." Maria's chest tightened. She understood the meaning behind his words. There were days when even hope could not fill an empty stomach. She glanced at Samuel, who was quietly arranging his toy horse on the counter, oblivious to the tension in the room. She knew that she could never let her son go hungry, no matter what. Caleb reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small leather pouch. "I want to help you in a way that honors your husband's memory and keeps you from losing what you treasure most." He opened the pouch, revealing a few gold coins and a small note written in careful handwriting. Maria's eyes widened, but it was not the coins that struck her, it was the understanding, the respect, and the thought behind the gesture. Maria shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. "No, I cannot accept this. It is too much. You have already given me so much. The ring, the coins, everything. Please, I cannot." Caleb held up his hand gently. "Listen to me, Maria. This is not about charity. This is about helping someone in need, without taking away their dignity. I do not want the ring for myself, and I will not take anything you cannot give freely. I only want to see you and Samuel safe and strong." Maria's eyes filled with tears. She looked down at Samuel, who had sensed something was happening and had come closer to her. His small hand rested on hers, warm and trusting. Maria realized that sometimes accepting help was not a weakness, it was a way to survive, a way to protect the people you love. With a deep breath, Maria nodded. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I cannot find words. You have saved us again, more than once. I do not know how to repay you." Caleb shook his head. "There is no need for repayment. Just live your life, Maria. Take care of Samuel, and keep the love that your husband gave you in your heart. That is enough." For a long moment they stood quietly, sharing a deep understanding without speaking further. Caleb's eyes lingered on the small ring on Maria's finger, and he smiled softly. Then, without another word, he turned and walked toward the door. The townspeople watched him leave, sensing that something important had occurred, though they could not see the full story as the door swung shut behind him. Maria sank into a chair, her hands trembling as she held the coins in the ring. The weight of her struggle seemed to lift slightly, replaced by a quiet strength she had never felt before. Samuel climbed onto her lap, wrapping his small arms around her neck. "Mama," he said softly, "are we okay now?" Maria hugged him tightly, tears falling freely. Yes, Samuel, we are okay. We will always be okay as long as we have each other and the love that surrounds us. That evening, Maria sat by the window, looking at the sun dip below the horizon. The dusty streets of Willow Creek glowed in warm, golden light. She thought about Caleb, about the strangers who had offered small acts of kindness, and about the strength she had discovered within herself. She realized that life would always have challenges, but it also had moments of extraordinary goodness, moments that reminded her that she was not alone in the days that followed. Maria continued her work at the bakery, but something had changed within her. She walked taller, spoke with more confidence, and smiled more often. The townspeople noticed the difference, though they could not fully understand the quiet courage that had grown in her heart. Caleb returned occasionally, offering help when needed and quietly observing her progress. His presence became a symbol of hope, a reminder that sometimes one person's kindness could create a ripple that touched many lives. One afternoon, as Maria was kneading dough, a young girl from the town approached the bakery. She carried a small basket of eggs, shyly offering them to Maria. "My mother said you might need these," the girl said softly. Maria smiled, her eyes warm. She realized that Caleb's act of kindness had inspired others in the town to help, and that hope could spread like sunlight across the dusty streets. That night, Maria tucked Samuel into bed and kissed him gently on the forehead. She looked at the small ring on her finger and whispered softly, "Jacob, we are safe. We are okay. And the world. The world still has good people in it." The days continued, each filled with work, small joys, and moments of challenge. Yet Maria faced them with a new heart, one strengthened by love, memory, and human kindness. She knew that life would never be easy, but she also knew that she had the courage to meet whatever came next. And somewhere in the town of Willow Creek, the cowboy Caleb rode his horse under the endless sky, quietly proud that his small actions had made a real difference in that quiet, simple life. Maria discovered a truth that would stay with her forever. Sometimes, the bravest thing a person can do is to accept help, and the most powerful gift a person can give is kindness. The morning light broke over Willow Creek like a soft promise. Maria opened her eyes to the familiar creaking of the wooden floorboards, the quiet hum of the town stirring outside. Samuel was already awake, bouncing on the small rug near the fireplace, his laughter carrying a lightness Maria hadn't heard in months. For the first time in a long time, she felt the weight of fear and worry ease, replaced by a cautious, steady hope. After a simple breakfast, Maria stepped outside with Samuel. The streets were bustling, but the tension that had once clung to her seemed to have loosened. The townspeople greeted her warmly, their small smiles and nods carrying more meaning than words could. Mrs. Harper waved from across the street, holding a basket of freshly baked bread. "Mr. Lewis." The blacksmith called out to her, showing a repaired iron pan. Each gesture reminded Maria that kindness could multiply, spreading quietly through a community. The bakery had become more than a workplace. It was a place of growth and connection. Maria found herself more confident with each passing day. Her hands moved over the dough with a calm rhythm, her mind focused, her heart steady. Customers came and went, some buying bread, others stopping to chat. Maria greeted them all with a soft smile, her eyes bright with gratitude and determination. She realized that even in the smallest moments, kneading dough, folding bread, or offering a kind word, she was building a life for Samuel that was stronger than she had ever imagined. Caleb returned to Willow Creek occasionally, often quietly helping where needed. One afternoon, he appeared at the bakery just as Maria was arranging a fresh batch of bread. Samuel ran to him, excited to see the cowboy who had once given them hope. Caleb bent down, smiling warmly at the boy. "Hello, Samuel. I see you're growing strong and smart," he said, ruffling the boy's hair. Maria watched the exchange, her heart swelling. She realized that Caleb's presence was more than a reminder of kindness. It was a symbol of trust. It's proof that there were good people in the world. She had feared loneliness and hardship for so long, but now she felt surrounded by care, even from those who were strangers at first. Over the next few weeks, Maria's life began to stabilize in small, meaningful ways. The bakery, once a source of endless struggle, became a steady source of income. She could buy groceries without worry, keep Samuel well fed, and even set aside small savings for future needs. The townspeople supported her quietly, offering small gifts and gestures of kindness. Maria often found herself amazed by the quiet generosity around her, how small acts of care could build safety and hope. One evening, after the bakery had closed, Maria sat with Samuel on the porch of their small home. The sky was painted in soft pinks and purples, the sunset reflecting off the dusty roads. Samuel leaned against her, tired but happy. "Mama, do you think Daddy would be proud of us?" he asked quietly. Maria held him close, touching the small ring on her finger. "Yes, Samuel," she said softly. "Daddy would be proud. We've been strong, and we've learned that love can help us face even the hardest days." She felt a quiet peace settle in her heart, a peace she had not known for months. The memory of hardship remained, but it was no longer heavy. It was a reminder of how far they had come. The next day, Maria decided to make a small change in her life. She began teaching other women in the town to bake, sharing her skills and creating a small network of support. These sessions became more than lessons. They were gatherings of hope and courage. Women shared stories, offered advice, and helped one another find strength in community. Maria saw how her own struggles could inspire others, how one person's resilience could ripple through many lives. Caleb returned one afternoon during a lesson. He watched quietly from the doorway as Maria guided a young woman through kneading dough. He could see the confidence and determination in her eyes, the love she poured into her work and her life. When Maria noticed him, she waved, and he stepped inside. "You've done well, Maria," he said, his voice calm but filled with admiration. "It's good to see you building not just for yourself, but for the whole town." Maria smiled, her hands resting on the counter. "I realized something, Caleb. Life will always have challenges, but it also has people who care. And if we help each other, the burden becomes lighter." She looked at him, gratitude shining in her eyes. "You reminded me of that." As weeks turned into months, Maria's confidence and resilience grew. She managed the bakery efficiently. Samuel thrived at home and school, and her reputation in the town blossomed. People came to her not just for bread, but for advice, guidance, and support. Maria realized that she had become a symbol of hope in Willow Creek, much like Caleb had been for her. One day, as Maria was preparing the morning batch of bread, she noticed a small group of children gathered near the doorway. They had come to watch her work, curious and eager to learn. Maria smiled warmly, inviting them inside. She showed them how to knead dough, shape bread, and understand the care that went into each loaf. The children laughed and learned, and Maria felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This was her way of giving back, of passing on the lessons of hope, resilience, and kindness that had carried her through the hardest days. That evening, as Maria closed the bakery and walked home with Samuel, the sun dipped low behind the hills. The town glowed softly, a mixture of dust and light creating a quiet, comforting scene. Samuel skipped beside her, humming a little tune he had made up, and Maria felt a profound sense of peace. She held the small gold ring on her finger, remembering her husband, Jacob, and the love that had shaped her life. She also remembered Caleb, whose kindness had sparked a chain of hope and change. As they reached their small home, Maria paused to look at the sky. She realized that life had taught her something important. Hardships would come, but courage, love, and kindness could carry a person through. The struggles that once seemed insurmountable were now challenges she could face with strength. Armed with the love of her son, the support of her community, and the lessons she had learned along the way, inside the house, Maria tucked Samuel into bed and kissed him gently on the forehead. She whispered softly, "We have come a long way, Samuel, and no matter what comes next, we will face it together." She looked down at the small ring on her finger one last time that night, feeling a connection to the past, gratitude for the present, and hope for the future. The streets of Willow Creek were quiet as Maria sat by the window. Listening to the soft sounds of the town settling for the night, she thought of Caleb, the townspeople, and the life she had built through courage and kindness. A smile touched her lips, and for the first time in a long time, she felt fully at peace. The ring on her finger was no longer just a memory. It was a symbol of survival, love, and hope, reminding her that even in the dustiest, hardest corners of life, light could find a way in. The first light of dawn spilled over Willow Creek like a gentle promise. The streets were calm, and a soft breeze carried the scent of fresh bread from Maria's bakery. The small wooden building had grown into a symbol of comfort and hope for the town. Inside, Maria worked with quiet confidence, her hands shaping dough as naturally as breathing. Samuel, now taller and stronger, was helping her set the trays for baking, laughing as flour dusted the air around them. Maria paused for a moment, looking at her son. He had grown so much over the past months, strong, curious, and full of life. The hardships they had endured were still in her memory, but they had become a foundation rather than a burden. Every struggle had taught her a lesson, every act of kindness a reminder that life, even in its hardest moments, could shine with goodness. The door to the bakery opened, and a soft, familiar voice greeted her. "Good morning, Maria." Caleb stepped inside, his cowboy hat tilted slightly back, his eyes warm and steady. He carried no pouch of coins this time, no offering of help, just himself and his quiet strength. Maria smiled, feeling a sense of ease whenever he appeared. "Caleb," she said softly. "Good morning." He nodded and glanced around at the bakery, noting how lively and welcoming it had become. "I see you've made this place your own," he said. "It's not just a bakery, it's a home for the town now." Maria smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "It's more than just bread," she said. "It's a place where people can feel hope, even if just for a little while. We've come a long way, Caleb." He looked at Samuel, who was stacking small trays of bread, his focus determined. "You've done a good job, Maria," he said. "It's not easy to rebuild a life, but you've done it with courage and heart. You've given Samuel a future worth having." Maria felt a warmth spread through her chest. She realized how far she had come from the days of uncertainty and struggle, to now, where her life had balance, purpose, and meaning. Every small step, every act of patience and courage had led her here. That afternoon, the town held a small gathering. Maria had invited neighbors, friends, and those who had quietly supported her journey. The square was lively, filled with laughter, music, and the smell of freshly baked bread. Children ran in circles, while adults shared stories and news. Maria stood beside Samuel, watching the joy around her, her heart full. Caleb approached, standing quietly behind her. "You've done something remarkable, Maria," he said softly. "You've taken the kindness given to you and turned it into strength, not just for yourself, but for the entire town." Maria nodded, feeling tears prick at her eyes. "I learned something important," she said. "Life can be hard, but love, courage, and kindness can carry a person farther than they think. I can face anything now, because I know I am not alone." The town square erupted with applause as Maria handed the first loaf of the day to a young boy who had been helping her at the bakery. The boy's eyes lit up, and he ran to his mother, proudly showing the bread. Maria felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her struggles had not been in vain. She had built more than a bakery. She had built a community, a home, a life filled with purpose. That evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Maria and Samuel walked home slowly, hand in hand. The sky was painted in shades of gold and pink, a quiet reflection of the hope they now carried in their hearts. Samuel skipped ahead briefly, then turned to look at his mother. "Mama," he said softly, "I'm happy here. I like our life." Maria squeezed his hand gently. "Me too, Samuel. We've worked hard, and we've found happiness in the little things. That is what matters most." She paused, looking at the small gold ring on her finger. "Your father would be proud of us, of how we've kept going and kept loving each other, even when things were hard." As they reached their small home, Caleb appeared once more, tipping his hat in greeting. "Good evening, Maria Samuel," he said. "The town looks alive tonight. You've made it stronger, brighter. I'm proud of what you've built." Maria smiled warmly. "Thank you, Caleb. Your kindness started this journey." But it's the love for Samuel and the strength I found that kept it going. Caleb nodded, understanding. He looked at Samuel, who waved shyly. Take care of each other, he said quietly. Life is full of challenges, but it is also full of hope. Just like today. And without another word, he tipped his hat and walked toward the hills, his silhouette merging with the fading light of the day. Maria stood on the porch, watching him go, feeling a quiet gratitude. She realized that some people come into our lives to remind us of the power of kindness and courage. And Caleb had been that for her. His small act of understanding had changed their lives forever. Inside the house, Maria and Samuel prepared for bed. The house was simple, but it was theirs, filled with warmth, laughter, and memories. Maria tucked Samuel in, brushing the hair from his forehead. Good night, my strong boy, she whispered. We have built something beautiful, and we will keep building no matter what comes next. Samuel smiled, his eyes heavy with sleep. Good night, Mama. I love you. I love you too, Samuel, Maria said, holding him close. Always. Later, as Maria sat by the window, she looked at the night sky. The stars sparkled brightly, each one a reminder of the small wonders in the world. She touched the ring on her finger gently, remembering Jacob, remembering the struggles, and remembering the kindness that had carried her through. A sense of peace and fulfillment washed over her. Maria knew that life would continue to have challenges. But she also knew that she had the strength, love, and support to face them. Her life, once filled with uncertainty, was now rich with hope, purpose, and connection. The bakery thrived, Samuel grew strong and happy, and the town of Willow Creek had become a place of warmth and community. As the night deepened, Maria whispered softly to herself, We are safe, we are happy, and we will continue to be strong together. In the quiet of that small home, Maria realized the truth she had discovered through her journey. Life's greatest treasures are not gold or wealth, but love, courage, kindness, and the bonds we build with others. The struggles of the past had shaped her, the kindness of strangers had guided her, and her own determination had carried her forward. With Samuel asleep and the world outside calm, Maria closed her eyes, feeling a deep, lasting peace. The ring on her finger, once a symbol of loss, was now a symbol of resilience, hope, and the enduring power of love. And in the heart of Willow Creek, life continued, brighter and warmer. Because of the courage of one woman who refused to give up